Hello YouTube, I hope everybody's doing well. I know it's been a while. I know I said I would post like 2 weeks ago. I was just not in the right place and I wasn't feeling well and I just couldn't get myself to film or talk to a camera. But enough of my excuses. I'm feeling a little bit better now, so today I thought I'd come to you with a little bit of a pep talk, heart to heart. These past couple days I've been doing a lot of self-reflection and sort of internal work, I want to say. That sounds super corny, but just to sort of make sense of all the things that have been happening to me recently. And I think one of the big things I kept on coming back to was this idea of people pleasing. I'm not proud to say this, but most of my life I was a people pleaser. I would do things in ways that would protect myself from the negative views of other people, even when it meant sacrificing my own sanity and mental health. It really did make me miserable, and I knew this because every time I would do it, I would feel just so awful afterwards, and I knew I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. My windows are fogging up. Am I talking that much? And for the longest time, I could never really understand why. Until now, I had an epiphany, if you will. So a couple days ago, I was listening to this podcast, and it was just one of those random self-help ones. One of the lines that really stuck out to me was, when you know something's wrong in your head, but you just can't get yourself to stop doing it, this could be a sign of a deeper rooted, unconscious childhood trauma. Those weren't the exact words, but something along those lines. So I did some thinking and wondering and reflecting, and I was like, what's the trauma that's making me do this thing that I know is wrong, but I just can't stop? And then it hit me. And when it did, I was kind of distraught. I was like, oh, I finally understand what the cause of my people-pleasing tendencies are. And for me, it might be different for you, but I truly believe that it came from some childhood abandonment issues that I'm not really gonna get into because it's not something that I'm really comfortable talking about even now. I've only started sharing it with my close friends these past couple months. But I had someone that was very close to me, that was supposed to love me, that was supposed to care for me, almost abandoned me because I spoke up about something that I saw one night that really bothered me. And for the longest time, I sort of blamed myself for it because I was the one that brought it up. Thinking about it now, I think I really was gaslighted into thinking that it really was my fault and I could have handled it a different way, but in reality, I was just speaking up for the truth and I was blamed for it. I think now I've sort of forgiven the situation somewhat, but I don't think I've fully healed from it. There's still some resentment in me that I wish wasn't there. So growing up, in the back of my head, I always kind of knew that this would affect me in my adult life somehow, but I never really knew how. I always thought that I'd have trust issues or something, but never severe abandonment attachment issues. And what really hit the nail on the head for me was the way that I would react to abandonment. I'd like to say that I can usually keep a level head when it comes to arguments or disagreements. I usually am more so disappointed than I am angry, but when it comes to abandonment and just an emotional disconnect that I sense could lead to abandonment, I throw a temper tantrum like a child. I never really understood because I would look back and I'm like, damn bitch, where'd that come from? But now I kind of realize that it's this inner child part of me that has never really healed from that trauma. And I'm not saying that it's right by any means for me to act out that way, it's not justifiable. I'm not saying this to sort of dismiss my actions, but I do understand it now, and I think in the future I can control it better when I recognize that it's happening. It's getting a little bit dark, so I'm just gonna take this ND filter off. Okay, now it's really bright. Am I overexposed now? Okay, yeah, whatever. And so ever since that incident, I kind of carried this ideology that if I did speak up for something that made me uncomfortable, things would end up blowing up like they did before, and I would end up feeling super guilty again, and the peace would be destroyed, and I would just feel horrible. And when I tell you, I literally would have done anything to never feel the way that I felt that day ever again. So from then on, I almost learned to stay quiet about things that bothered me for the sake of peace. So for the longest time, I was kind of oblivious to how this would have affected me in my adult life and my relationships growing up because it was so long ago. I thought I'd just forget about it. But the thing is, when you're a kid and something traumatic happens to you, you don't really know how to process it. You don't know how to evaluate the situation and think about what was right in the situation, what was wrong, and where did I play a role in all of it. You don't really know how to grieve and heal in a healthy way. The only thing I knew how to feel was guilt and shame, and the only way that I knew how to move forward was to forget about it and pretend it didn't happen. And let me tell you right now, suppressing it is only going to make it worse because you're going to have to deal with it eventually, and as you get older, you kind of get confused as to why it's coming up the way it's coming up. And I know this because I've experienced it myself. I remember one day when I was in high school and I was having a pretty bad day. I don't know what kind of triggered me. I was walking in the hallways with my friends and I was just on edge the whole day. I was being super irritable and sort of cranky. And as I was walking, I just started crying, and my friend looked at me and she's like, are you okay? And when she said that, I just started bawling. My friends pulled me into a corner and they're like, what's wrong? And I told them everything that happened that day. And they're like, what? Did this just happen recently? And I was like, no, it happened 4 years ago. And I was very confused and they were very confused. And I was like, why is this coming up now? This should have been my first sign to go to therapy. But at the time, I was still feeling really guilty and shameful. So I just didn't want to talk about it. So I suppressed it again. But my point is, I thought I moved forward from it and I didn't. And I thought I was over it and I wasn't. So fast forward to my later teen years, wherever I would go, whether it be work or school, I would always put in 110%. And people would be like, oh, Michelle, you're such a hard worker. You're so dedicated. And I'm not saying this to brag because looking back on it, it's not a good thing. It wasn't a good thing because I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And I wasn't happy doing it. I didn't bust my ass off cleaning dusty podiums, picking up people's inconvenient shifts, and pulling all-nighters for assignments because I genuinely loved to do that or I just really liked that subject. But I realized I was constantly bending over backwards because I wanted to prove to people that I was worth not abandoning. And I was afraid that if I ever put my foot down or spoke up against something that I didn't like, that would be a cause for people to have more justification to leave me or to fire me or whatever. Like, look at me, I can do this, I can do that so well, I'll do this, I won't complain, I'll do anything you want, please don't leave me. And because of that, it made it a lot easier for people to walk all over me. And trust me, walk they fucking did. I got stomped on because people knew that I wasn't gonna do anything, I wasn't gonna say anything, and if anything happened, they know I would probably take their apology too, to be honest. And yeah, I did that. I really did. And it took me 20 years and being pushed to my absolute breaking point to be like, you know what, actually this is not fun. I don't wanna do this anymore. This is enough, I'm done. Okay, I'm done with the whole people pleasing, whatever the fuck. And maybe you struggle with this too, and I know how you feel, and I know how hard it is to stop. So if I can leave you with anything, let me tell you this little story. So way back when, I had a falling out with this friend. Looking back on it, I was pretty hurt from the situation, but I decided to rekindle anyways. I thought I healed from everything, I thought it was better. But when I came back, I found myself apologizing. And I was constantly like figuring out ways to sort of blame myself for why things went wrong and why things went downhill. Because in my head, I was like, if there was nothing that I did wrong, then how could I have been treated like this? How could I have been left? In response, the person was like, you didn't do anything wrong. And I was gobsmacked. It's dramatic. But no, yeah, I was pretty surprised. They're probably like sugarcoating it. I know it takes two to tango, but it was just the hardest pill for me to swallow, that I could have done things right on my part to the best of my abilities, but still be left and abandoned. And that's what happened to me when I was younger, and that's just what happens in life sometimes. The wrong person, the wrong place, the wrong pathway in life for you will always be wrong no matter how hard you try to people please. So just stop doing it. I know you don't want to be mean and I know you don't want to let people down, but if you're so caught up in that, then where do you fit into all of this? Like, where is your place to find peace? Where do you care about yourself? It's getting really dark. I just realized. I'm gonna move the camera here because I think it's a little bit better. I know you're probably wondering why I'm in this ridiculous getup. I was just in that mood. Anyways, as I was saying, where is the room for you to feel at peace? Because I know that when I stayed quiet and I didn't speak up for myself for the sake of peace, I didn't feel at peace at all. In fact, I actually felt a lot more anxiety. So I would say just take the short-term discomfort and take the long-term peace. Because the longer you hold it in, the more you build resentment. And trust me, that's not gonna be peaceful for anybody involved. And this is not me telling you to be an asshole or stop doing things that inconvenience you altogether. I know a lot of things take sacrifice, but just remember that the sacrifice doesn't need to include your mental health and well-being. There's a big difference between being nice and just giving up your sanity for other people. I remember sitting across my best friend for dinner the other day and I was laying this all down to her. I just put my foot down in a relationship that was low-key testing my boundaries a little bit. I was like, oh my god, was I too mean? Should I have done this instead? Should I have just not said anything altogether? And she looked at me and she's like, Michelle, you owe it to your little girl self to never go through what you went through again. And to never feel like just because you speak up for something that is uncomfortable for you or you speak up about your feelings, that it's ever a reason for anybody to abandon you. Boundaries do not push the right people away. They push the wrong ones away. And I think as people pleasers, we should find a lot of comfort in knowing that. People who love you and truly are meant to be in your life will not leave you when you set boundaries because they know that what you're doing is best for you. I really believe that if you focus on yourself and you act in ways that are best for you, you will start attracting the people that are meant to be in your life. But when you focus on what other people think and act in ways to please please other people, you end up attracting people that are not there for your true intentions. And for the most part, with people pleasers, you'll end up attracting narcissists, energy vampires, and people who don't love themselves because they'll see that in you and they will suck out every single last drop of your soul to fulfill their needs. These are the type of people who don't know how to stop taking until you learn how to stop giving. If at this point in my spiel you're still finding it a little bit hard to stop, sort of think of it this way. By standing up for what is right and not enabling this person or this workplace to treat you like garbage, you end up saving the next person from going through the same thing. And more importantly, you make it up to your inner child who was hurt and didn't understand that what happened to them was not right. If you want people to respect you, you have to respect yourself first, and people will only do what you allow them to do to you. I'd like to say that I'm a very optimistic person and I like to see the best in situations and in people, but I don't want to lie to you because I had to figure this out the hard way. Some people in life do not have your best interests. I just don't want anyone to go through what I went through and have to reach your breaking point to realize that this is not okay. If I can catch you as soon as I can, whether you're older than me or younger than me, I need you to please stop. Because I look back on those times and I just feel like I let myself down so many times, but at the same time, I didn't really know any better. I was trying to fill a void that I didn't even know was there at the time through validation, and I was willing to sacrifice my mental health and sanity to get it. So I really just want to encourage you guys to look at what you're doing and ask why you're really doing it and who's really benefiting from this. Try to look into the root causes of why you try to people please or try to seek this form of validation, and really understand that you can't really decide what other people think of you and what they decide to do to you, but you can control how you decide to move forward. Alright, so I finally made it home. I know this video sounded very preachy and kind of like I'm one of those like self-help life coach type people, but I really do mean it because I know a lot of you come from a good place and you have a good heart, and I just don't want to see you getting hurt. If you don't want to bend over backwards at work, you don't have to bend over backwards at work. If you don't want someone to treat you like garbage, don't let them treat you like garbage. And if they want to fire you, let them fire you. If someone wants to leave, let them leave. It's just that simple. It's 2022. We're not begging people to see our worth. We're not begging people to stay in our lives if they don't want to. We're not killing our mental health for our jobs. We're not people pleasing anymore. With that, I will be signing off. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I hope you take into account everything I said today. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time.